What is going on, guys? Zuko back with another Dragonflight video. How is everybody doing? Grab your coffees. Let's talk about Dragonflight, man. This thing has been so exciting. This is my priest. We did change, if you missed the stream or the last video, we changed to a Void Elf for my priest. Really enjoying it so far. I think one of the best passives, passives in the game in terms of the no pushback from wherever it is here. This is it. No spells aren't delayed by pushing. I'm really loving Void Elf. It's a lot of fun. Really enjoying the Priest playstyle in general. I'll talk about Priest in a second. We're going to talk about the Dragonflight map for a second here. We're in the Dragon Isles, of course, and I just hit level 70. I finished the whole campaign. I'm going to talk more about this in another video, but there's some really big like world quests up right now, like a 363 weapon you can get. So you got maybe about 6 days to go get this. So make sure you get to level 70 soon so you can go pick up this really, really good weapon. But I'll talk more about all the things that unlock at level 70 in Dragonflight, because it's like a whole new game opens up. Way more so than previous expansions, I think, where we've had, there's obviously end game content. This is like a whole different beast, whole different animal. So really, really enjoying Dragonflight that way. I want to talk about the Shadow Priest build that I've been working on recently, and I've really pivoted a little bit in some of my talent choices here. I mentioned this build in my last Shadow Priest video that I was going to be like experimenting with it, and now I have, and it feels very good. So an overview of the build is that it centers around Shadow Word Death, which is really cool and a very unique idea. So you can take obviously Shadow Word Death here in the tree. Actually, you just get it for free. Then you take Death and Madness, which is an important passive, which was there, back in Shadowlands. If your Shadow Word Death fails to kill a target at or below 20% health, its cooldown as reset can't occur more than once every 20 seconds. If the target dies, though, within 7 seconds of being struck, also, this is actually in addition. If the target dies within 7 seconds of being struck by your Shadow Word Death, you regain 30 insanity. 30 insanity, which is a lot. This doesn't cost any insanity on its own. So this is potentially a insanity generator, which is something that basically I have to work on this. Like, I've been trying this out, and I haven't been doing this very well, but this is a very difficult thing to get right, but if you do get it right, it's very strong. So that's the first piece of the puzzle. Down here on my spec side, I'm going into Mindbender. This is really important. You got to take Inescapable Torment for this build, and then you're going to take Pain and Death with DeathSpeaker, which is very, very odd. Nobody else has been running this as far as I know. Most people are going Screams of the Void into Idol of Cthulhu. I really dislike Idol of Cthulhu because it's a chance for a tendril to spawn. The other really good build you can do is Insidious Ire into Idol of N'Zoth. Perfectly fine. The Idol of N'Zoth damage is really good. It might just be better in general, but I've really been enjoying this experimentation with Pain and Death and DeathSpeaker, and here's how it works. DeathSpeaker says your Shadow Word Pain damage has a chance to reset the cooldown of Shadow Word Death and enable it 150% additional damage regardless of the target's health. Okay, so it's like getting a kill shot on Hunter for free, right? That kind of idea. So that's that proc there. And of course, your Shadow Word Pain is getting applied by Misery. When you Vampire touch something, it also gets Shadow Word Pain put on it, right? And if you throw out your Shadow Crash, it's going to put Shadow Word Pain and Vampire Touch on 8 targets, up to 8 targets. So that's how you apply your Shadow Word Pains, and it will give you a chance of getting a free proc on Shadow Word Death. And then Pain and Death says your Shadow Word Death damage goes up by 25%, which is no joke. Then it also cleaves 60% of the damage that it dealt to all targets affected by Shadow Word Pain, which in this case is usually going to be up to 8 on average. Now, once I really start min-maxing this in higher Mythic Plus, and the targets last for longer than like a couple seconds, I'll really be able to take advantage of this and get like maybe 10 or 11 or 12 Vampiric Touches and Shadow Word Pains out there, and then this is cleaving an enormous amount. So this is exactly like Psychic Link. Pain and Death is just like Psychic Link, but just for Shadow Word Death. So it cleaves 60% of its damage. So this is really, really good damage. The final piece of this is that every single time you press Shadow Word Death, when your Mindbender is up, it will do Inescapable Torment damage, of course, right? So this is really, really good and allows you to, if you get procs during your Mindbender window, it will give you a bunch of extra free damage. So it's going to look something like this. Let me just try and get a couple of extra targets going here. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, just for fun. Okay, and then we're going to go over here. Mindbender's out. We're going to go Shadow Word Death right off the bat, just because it's going to proc for us, hopefully. Our Mind Blast is still going to proc for us. Okay, there's Shadow Word Death proc right there. Boom, we got one. Okay. Okay, here we go. We're going to keep doing damage. I should use my Mind Seer. I'm just not focused on Mind Seer right now. Just don't, you know. I'm just trying to show you how this works. Mind Seer proc. We're waiting for Shadow Word Death to see if it procs here. Now, the difficulty of showing this on the training dummies here is that, there, we got a proc right there. It doesn't always proc. Obviously, it doesn't always proc, just in general. But the main thing is that you can't take advantage of the execute because these dummies don't ever get into execute range. So it's hard to show you the full extent of this test on the training dummies because I can't show you execute damage. But that's okay. I just wanted to show you that it procced a couple times and to show you what that damage looks like. So there you go. That's what it kind of looks like there. So you can see Pain and Death, which is the proc, is doing 6% of our damage. Shadow Word Death itself is down here only doing 2% because, once again, we weren't able to press it in the actual execute phase. Remember, Shadow Word Death does way more damage in execute. Damage is increased by 150% if the target is below 20% of their maximum health. And we can get a reset on Shadow Word Death as well. So, yes, we're getting the procs from DeathSpeaker, but really, you want to take advantage of the Death and Madness proc when you're in a dungeon. And I'm going to show you what that looks like right now. I'll show you some footage here. So this is just for me running around in some heroic dungeons. Remember, guys, the numbers are going to be subject to change because it's all about gear. Our gear is not equalized here, so I don't even know what my item level was here. But you can see we're going to get lots of big AoE damage here. Shadow Word Death isn't even off cooldown yet. Now it is. I'm going to use my Mind Blast into my Shadow Word Death here to get lots of damage going out for my Mind Bender. Got a proc on Shadow Word Death there. And I found over the course of the dungeon runs that I have done that this thing does a lot of damage. It just does. It actually contributes a significant amount of damage. And if I was using it correctly in the execute windows, then it would be even better. So you want to basically use Shadow Word Death now just like on cooldown, even when you're not in execute. And on this boss fight, you'll see I've already used Shadow Word Death. You can see it's on cooldown right here. So it's coming off cooldown, and now we're getting the bosses into the execute-ish phase. We're getting close there. This is where Shadow Word Death will come back, and I got a proc on it right now. So I can press it, and then I also get to press it again because they're in execute. So you can, there's a way to like double dip, kind of triple dip on the damage that Shadow Word Death can do in all these different fights. So this is really the skill expression on this particular build. This is where you're going to separate yourself, distinguish yourself from other Shadow Priests. Not that anybody's playing Shadow Priests except for me. But if you want to get this right, if you want to play this really well, it's about using Shadow Word Death on targets that are low on health in that 20% range, and that will splash to a bunch of nearby enemies, and then you're going to get the proc from Death and Madness, and you can press it again and splash the damage again. And then if you get a free proc from the talent from DeathSpeaker, then you'll get to do it again and again. All the Shadow Word Death damage is cleaving, but it's all about really taking advantage, in my mind, of that execute phase, making sure that you're pressing Shadow Word Death in that execute phase to get the real maximum value out of it. This is something I need to work on for this build. It's something that I'm going to get better at. I haven't really sort of figured out, mastered that yet. I just started playing with it yesterday. So this is going to get better, and I'm very excited. You can see right there, the Pain and Death damage, 8.4% of our damage was Pain and Death, and then Shadow Word Death did 6.3% on its own because we had so many procs of it. So this is like Shadow Word Death damage combined right here is 15% of our damage. It goes right up to it's right below Mind Seer. So you need to think of it that way. Sometimes it's hard to quantify how this stuff is kind of going, but it can be very strong. I've noticed it just feels like it's very strong. And if you're playing it well, the damage is really consistent, and that's really cool. It's more consistent, in my opinion, than Idol of Cthulhu, which I've really kind of struggled with, been a little frustrated with that ability. So is this better than taking Idol of N'Zoth and getting all the Echoing Void splash damage? It might not be. I don't know. I honestly don't know. This is why I have to experiment with it. But you can just see the damage here is quite strong, and I think that it's important just to recognize that. So I'm really enjoying it. I think that it's a really, really great build, and I think that if you guys are interested in something like this, you should give it a shot. You can see I'm spiking up to about 50K here on this AoE pack. So let me jump back to the game here for a second. I think that this build has got some legs. I really do. I think that this is just the beginning. This is just kind of the opening for me. This is the build that I've been running so far. I'm definitely going to try and experiment with Maddening Touch. I think in this dungeon footage, I was running with Coalescing the Harnessing Shadows and Puppet Master, which might be better. I don't know, but I do think that there's a really, really good value in Maddening Touch, because if you spread Vampiric Touch to multiple enemies, you're getting lots of insanity generation. So I'm going to keep experimenting with this build, guys. That's the bottom line. But I do think that this build with DeathSpeaker, with Pain and Death, and then obviously with the Death and Madness stuff over here, I think it's got some legs. Not only does Shadow Word Death do a lot of damage on its own, the Pain and Death, which is looks like Psychic Link, that cleaving damage is very strong. And then on top of that, if you're getting procs on DeathSpeaker, it funnels into your Inescapable Torment damage, which makes your Mindbender do lots of damage, and it makes your Mindbender window get extended. So you're generating more insanity, your Mindbender's just doing more damage in general, you have more chances to proc Inescapable Torment. It's a really cool build. So I'm loving this right now. I'm loving Dragonflight. I'm absolutely loving Shadow Priest. Let me know what you guys think. What are your experiences of Dragonflight right now? What's been your favorite thing about the expansion so far? I'd love to hear it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I love you all. I'll see you in the next one.